Neville Goddard's The Law of Assumption versus the Law of Attraction. Two paths to manifestation. For centuries, people have been fascinated by the idea that our thoughts shape our reality. Ancient philosophies, from Hermetic teachings to Eastern spiritual texts, hinted at a universal principle. What you focus on, you bring into your life. In the modern era, this idea gained widespread attention through what we now call the Law of Attraction. The Law of Attraction, often summarized as like attracts like, suggests that by holding positive thoughts, visualizing your desires, and maintaining a high vibration, you can draw the right people, opportunities, and resources toward you. Books like The Secret and the teachings of Abraham Hicks propelled this concept into mainstream consciousness, making it a household idea for those seeking personal development and financial success. Millions of people worldwide began practicing visualization boards, affirmations, and gratitude journals. While many experienced inspiring results, others found themselves frustrated, wondering why their efforts seemed to produce little change. For those people, the law of attraction often felt incomplete. It seemed to involve a constant effort to attract something external rather than creating a genuine inner transformation. This is where Neville Goddard's law of assumption enters the conversation. Unlike the law of attraction, which focuses on attracting through vibration and thought, the law of assumption is rooted in identity and consciousness. Neville taught that reality is nothing more than a reflection of your inner state. If you assume yourself to already be the person who has what you desire, the external world inevitably reshapes to match that state. Instead of waiting for wealth to be attracted to you, you become the wealthy person in consciousness first. You do not hope or wish. You live in the end result, feeling it as real here and now. This distinction may seem subtle, but it is profound. The law of attraction often keeps people in a loop of wanting, which subtly reinforces the idea that they do not yet have what they desire. The law of assumption skips the waiting and the hoping. It requires you to shift your state of being instantly. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you embody your desire and naturally express it into the world. Rather than attracting wealth like a magnet, you recognize yourself as already wealthy in consciousness, and the world aligns to reflect that truth. Why does this distinction matter, especially when it comes to wealth and success? Because your relationship with money is deeply tied to your identity and subconscious beliefs. If you continue to see yourself as someone who is lacking, struggling, or unworthy, no amount of affirmations will create lasting change. But if you change your inner concept of self, if you begin to see yourself as abundant, capable, and already successful, you effortlessly move into situations, ideas, and opportunities that match that state. Neville's method eliminates the middle step of trying to attract and goes straight to being. In this guide, you will explore both concepts in depth and see exactly how the law of assumption creates faster, more permanent results than traditional attraction techniques. You will understand why assuming the end result is more powerful than waiting for the universe to deliver. You will learn how wealth and success flow naturally when you shift your state of being rather than chasing external outcomes. Most importantly, you will see real-life case studies of people who transformed their finances using Neville's teachings, proving that inner change always precedes outer change. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of how to move beyond wanting and waiting into a place of confident knowing. This journey is about discovering that you're not a passive attractor, but the operant power, the very source of the reality you experience. The core of the law of attraction. The law of attraction is one of the most popular and widely discussed universal principles in the realm of self-development and spirituality. At its heart lies a simple yet powerful idea, like attracts like. This means the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs you hold create an energetic field around you that attracts similar experiences into your life. According to this principle, if you focus on abundance, you will attract more abundance. If you focus on lack, fear, or doubt, you will unknowingly invite more of the same. Many modern teachers describe this process in terms of vibration. Everything in the universe is made of energy, and that energy vibrates at specific frequencies. Your thoughts and emotions are not just fleeting mental events. They also carry a vibrational signature. When you feel love, joy, gratitude, and excitement, your vibration is high. When you feel fear, anger, or resentment, your vibration is low. The law of attraction suggests that whatever frequency you emit through your thoughts and emotions becomes a signal to the universe. The universe then responds by bringing into your life experiences, people, and circumstances that match that vibration. Visualizing desires and raising vibration. One of the most common techniques associated with the law of attraction is visualization. Visualization involves creating a clear mental image of a desired outcome, as if it is already happening. By imagining your dream house, your ideal career, or a life of financial freedom in vivid detail, you are essentially programming your subconscious mind to accept this vision as possible. The more real it feels in your mind, the more natural it becomes for you to align with it emotionally. But visualization alone is not enough. It must be paired with the right emotional state. For example, if you're visualizing your dream job but secretly feeling anxious or doubtful, you're sending mixed signals to the universe. This is why the law of attraction emphasizes the importance of raising your vibration. Practices like gratitude journaling, affirmations, meditation, and surrounding yourself with uplifting environments are all aimed at keeping your emotional frequency high. When you genuinely feel good, you are naturally more magnetic to experiences that match that emotional tone. People who practice the law of attraction often talk about acting as if. This means behaving and thinking like the person who already has what you want. If you want wealth, you cultivate the mindset and emotional state of a wealthy person. If you want love, you begin by embodying self-love and an open heart. The underlying idea is that your outer world mirrors your inner world. When you change your internal state, your external reality begins to shift to reflect it. Alignment with frequency. The word alignment is frequently used in law of attraction teachings. To be in alignment means your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions are all congruent with the desire you want to manifest. If you desire financial success, but your thoughts are filled with fear of failure, your emotions are laced with anxiety, and your actions are inconsistent, you are out of alignment. In contrast, when your thoughts affirm that success is inevitable, your emotions reflect calm confidence, and your actions are inspired rather than forced, you are aligned with the frequency of success. Imagine a radio station. To hear your favorite music, you must tune your radio to the correct frequency. If you're even slightly off, you'll hear static or the wrong station. The law of attraction works the same way. The universe is like a giant broadcasting system, reflecting back to you the signal you are tuned into. If you want to experience abundance, but you are tuned into scarcity, you will continue to hear the static of financial struggles. The key is to tune yourself to the frequency of what you want, not what you fear. Why LOA emphasizes positive thinking. Positive thinking is a cornerstone of the law of attraction because it shifts your focus away from problems and toward solutions. When you focus on what you want rather than what you lack, you generate emotions like hope, excitement, and gratitude. These emotions are high-frequency states that signal to the universe that you are ready to receive. However, positive thinking is not about ignoring reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about choosing to direct your attention toward outcomes that empower you rather than disempower you. For example, instead of saying, "I can't afford this," you reframe it to, "I'm attracting the resources I need." Instead of dwelling on why something hasn't worked yet, you focus on the possibility that it can and will. By consistently choosing thoughts that align with your desired outcome, you gradually reprogram your subconscious mind and shift your energetic state. Common misconceptions and why some people fail with LOA. Despite its popularity, many people struggle to see consistent results with the law of attraction. This leads to frustration and the belief that it doesn't work. In reality, the principle itself is always working, but there are several common misconceptions that create obstacles. One major misconception is treating the law of attraction like a magic wand. People expect that simply thinking about something for a few minutes a day will cause it to appear instantly. While thoughts are powerful, they must be accompanied by belief and emotional alignment. If your conscious mind is saying, "I want wealth," but your subconscious mind is filled with feelings of unworthiness or fear, those deeper emotions will dominate. Another misunderstanding is confusing wanting with having. When you constantly say, "I want this," you are reinforcing the idea that you don't currently have it. The universe mirrors that lack back to you. True manifestation requires you to shift from a state of wanting into a state of being. You don't just want abundance, you feel abundant. You don't just want love, you feel love now. This emotional shift is where many people fall short. Timing is also a source of confusion. People expect instant results and lose faith when things don't show up immediately. But manifestation often unfolds through a series of natural steps, or what Neville Goddard called the bridge of incidents. The universe rearranges circumstances to bring your desire to you, but it does so in the most logical way possible. Patience and persistence are essential. Finally, many overlook the importance of taking inspired action. The law of attraction is not about sitting on your couch and waiting for a miracle. It's about becoming so aligned with your desire that opportunities naturally appear and you feel motivated to act on them. Action taken from a place of alignment feels effortless and joyful, unlike forced or desperate action. The true essence of LOA. At its core, the law of attraction is about awareness. It is a reminder that you are not a victim of random circumstances, but an active participant in shaping your reality. Your inner world, your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, sets the tone for what you experience externally. By consciously choosing your focus, raising your vibration, and aligning with the energy of your desired reality, you become a deliberate creator rather than an unconscious reactor. However, as we will see in the next sections, while the law of attraction lays the foundation for understanding how energy and focus shape reality, Neville Goddard's law of assumption goes even deeper. It shifts the emphasis from attracting something external to becoming the person who already has it. Instead of tuning into a frequency to pull something toward you, you step into the identity of your fulfilled desire and let the external world catch up. This subtle yet powerful shift from attraction to assumption transforms the entire manifestation process. The core of the law of assumption. Neville Goddard's teachings revolve around a bold yet profoundly simple idea. Your reality is nothing more than a reflection of your state of consciousness. What you experience in the external world is not random, nor is it dictated solely by luck, effort, or external circumstances. Instead, it is a mirror, faithfully reflecting what you assume to be true about yourself and your life. If you see yourself as poor, life will present you with circumstances that reinforce poverty. If you see yourself as wealthy and capable, you will naturally encounter opportunities, ideas, and situations that align with that self-concept. In Neville's words, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. This understanding is the foundation of the law of assumption, which is different from the more widely known law of attraction. While the law of attraction focuses on thoughts and vibrations pulling experiences toward you, the law of assumption skips the step of attracting and goes straight to being. Instead of waiting for external proof or hoping something will arrive, you assume the state of the person who already has it. Reality then rearranges itself to reflect that assumption. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, what it really means. One of Neville's most famous teachings is the phrase, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But what does this actually mean? It means you step into the emotional and mental state you would naturally occupy if your desire were already accomplished. For example, if you want to experience financial freedom, you do not focus on wanting money or wishing it would come. Instead, you imagine what it feels like to already be financially secure. You embody the calm, the relief, the gratitude, and the confidence of someone who has achieved wealth. This is not about daydreaming or wishful thinking. It is about fully accepting the new state as your present reality and consciousness. Neville explains that consciousness is the only reality. If you're conscious of being wealthy, loved, or successful, then in the unseen realm of imagination, it is already true. The outer world will simply catch up and show you what you have accepted as real within yourself. Think of it this way. When you fall asleep at night, you often dream vividly. During the dream, it feels real, even if it is entirely imaginary. Neville suggests that your imagination is just as real as the physical world. If you can fully immerse yourself in the feeling of your fulfilled desire, your subconscious mind accepts it as fact. And since the subconscious governs your actions, perceptions, and even how the world responds to you, the desired outcome must eventually solidify in the 3D world. The power of imagination as the creative force of reality. Neville repeatedly emphasized that imagination creates reality. He believed that your imagination is not just a tool for entertainment or fantasy. It is the very mechanism by which all things are brought into being. Every invention, every achievement, and every transformation in human history began as an idea in someone's imagination before becoming tangible. To use the law of assumption effectively, you must engage your imagination deliberately. Neville taught a technique called living in the end, where you create a short, simple scene in your mind that implies your desire is already fulfilled. For example, if you want to manifest a new job, you might imagine shaking a friend's hand while they congratulate you on your new position. If you want a new home, you might imagine standing in the living room, feeling the texture of the furniture, or looking out the window at your view. The key is to keep the scene short and vivid and to infuse it with the exact emotions you would feel if it were happening now. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a physical event. By repeatedly impressing your subconscious with this feeling, you plant the seed of your new reality. Another powerful tool Neville taught was revision. Revision involves mentally rewriting a past event or experience to match the outcome you prefer. For instance, if you had an unpleasant conversation or financial setback, you revisit the memory in your imagination and replay it differently. Perhaps the conversation ends well, or the financial issue resolves in your favor. By revising the past in consciousness, you change its meaning and energetic imprint on your life. Over time, your outer world reshapes to align with the new assumption. Why assumption bypasses waiting and aligns instantly with the end result. One of the most frustrating aspects of traditional manifestation methods, like the law of attraction, is the sense of waiting. You visualize, affirm, and raise your vibration, but it often feels like the thing you desire is still out there, slowly making its way toward you. This creates a subtle feeling of lack, which ironically delays the very manifestation you want. The law of assumption bypasses this waiting game entirely. Why? Because in assumption, there is no gap between you and your desire. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you no longer see it as separate from you. You are already the person who has it. You are not seeking wealth. You are wealthy in consciousness. You are not waiting for love. You are already loved and loving. When you fully accept this state, you naturally begin to think, feel, and act from it. Your decisions change. Your energy shifts. You notice opportunities you might have ignored before. And most importantly, the outer world begins to reflect this internal state. Neville called this the bridge of incidents. After you assume the new state, a series of seemingly natural events unfolds that leads you effortlessly to the manifestation of your desire. It may look like coincidence from the outside, but it is simply the world reshaping itself to match your new assumption. This is why Neville often said that persistence in the assumption will harden into fact. If you persist in the inner knowing that your desire is already fulfilled, even when your physical reality has not yet caught up, the outer world has no choice but to reflect that assumption. There is no need to wait, beg, or wonder how it will happen. You simply remain faithful to the end result in your imagination, and the path reveals itself. Living as the operant power. Perhaps the most empowering part of Neville's law of assumption is the idea that you are the operant power. You are not waiting for the universe to decide when or if it will give you something. You are not dependent on external forces or hidden energies. The creative power is within you, specifically within your imagination and your assumptions about yourself. When you embrace this truth, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You no longer ask, when will my desire come? Instead, you claim it as already yours in consciousness, knowing the outer world will align accordingly. This shifts you from a state of lack and longing into a state of ownership and certainty. This is why assumption feels so immediate. There is no separation between the creator, you, and the creation, your desire. By becoming the person who already has it internally, you collapse the time delay that often exists in traditional manifestation practices. In essence, the law of assumption teaches that your reality is not determined by effort, luck, or external conditions. It is shaped by who you believe you are and what you assume to be true. By deliberately choosing new assumptions and persistently feeling them as real, you could transform any area of your life, whether it's wealth, health, relationships, or personal success. Attraction versus assumption. Key differences. The law of attraction and the law of assumption are often grouped together under the broader umbrella of manifestation teachings, but they operate on fundamentally different principles. On the surface, they may appear similar. Both suggest that your inner world shapes your outer experience. However, the way they approach this process is distinct. Understanding the subtle but powerful differences between them can be the key to moving from slow, inconsistent results to effortless, lasting change. LOA focuses on attracting something external. Assumption focuses on being it now. The law of attraction operates on the idea that what you think and feel sends out a vibrational signal to the universe, which then attracts similar energy back to you. You're like a magnet pulling experiences, people, and opportunities that match your thoughts and emotions. In this sense, the focus is on drawing something toward yourself. There's a you, and there's the thing you want, two separate points that must be connected through alignment. In contrast, the law of assumption eliminates this sense of separation entirely. There's no thing out there that you're trying to attract. Instead, there's only your current state of being. Neville Goddard taught that the world is a mirror of your inner self. When you assume you already are the person who has the desire fulfilled, the outer reality simply reflects that assumption back to you. For example, with the law of attraction, you might say, I am attracting financial abundance. You might visualize money flowing into your life and feel gratitude for it. But with the law of assumption, you go straight to, I am already financially abundant. I live in that state now. You no longer see money as something you're trying to pull in. You live as the version of yourself who already has it. This shift is subtle but incredibly powerful. Attraction implies a gap. You are here, and your desire is there. Assumption collapses the gap because you're already embodying the end result. LOA relies on feelings plus vibrations. Assumption relies on living in the end. The law of attraction emphasizes raising your vibration. It encourages you to think positive thoughts, cultivate high-frequency emotions like joy and gratitude, and stay in a state of expectancy. When your vibration matches the frequency of your desire, you supposedly become magnetic to it. While emotions also play a role in the law of assumption, the focus is less on sustaining a high vibration and more on living in the end. Neville taught that you only need to assume the feeling of a wish fulfilled, not constantly be happy or stay positive. It is about embodying the specific state you would naturally feel if your desire were already realized. For example, if you want a loving relationship, LOA might encourage you to feel love and happiness in general to attract a partner. Assumption, however, would have you imagine and feel the exact emotions you would experience if you were already in that relationship: contentment, security, companionship. It is not about generating generic high vibrations. It is about occupying the precise emotional state that matches the fulfilled desire. Living in the end means you think, feel, and even act as if the result has already been achieved. If you desire a new home, you mentally walk through it. You feel the floor beneath your feet. You smell the fresh paint or the scent of your favorite candle. You don't hope the home will come. You know it is already yours in consciousness. The external world, being a reflection of consciousness, must eventually mirror that inner state. Why assumption eliminates resistance faster than LOA? One of the biggest challenges people face with the law of attraction is resistance. Resistance comes in the form of doubt, fear, impatience, and subconscious beliefs that contradict your conscious desires. You might consciously want wealth, but deep down you feel unworthy of it or believe it is difficult to attain. These hidden beliefs block the flow of manifestation, no matter how many affirmations you repeat or how many hours you visualize. The reason assumption often bypasses this resistance more effectively is that it doesn't leave room for the waiting energy that fuels doubt. When you're trying to attract something, you are inherently acknowledging that you don't have it yet. This subtle awareness of lack creates an energetic contradiction. Even if you're trying to be positive, the underlying message is still, I want this because I don't have it now. In assumption, there is no waiting. You simply step into the identity of the person who already has the desire. You are no longer trying to bridge a gap. You are already there. When you truly accept this state internally, doubt begins to fade because your subconscious doesn't see it as a future event. It accepts it as present reality. For example, if you assume you're already healthy, your thoughts and feelings naturally align with health. You don't wake up wondering, when will I heal? Instead, you live as someone who is whole and vibrant. Because you're no longer fighting your current circumstances or waiting for proof, resistance dissolves and the desired change manifests more quickly. The psychological shift from wanting to being, perhaps the most profound difference between attraction and assumption is the psychological shift they require. Attraction keeps you in a mindset of wanting. Even when you're being positive, you're still focused on something you don't yet have. Wanting is an energy of separation. It acknowledges lack and subtly reinforces the belief that you're incomplete without the desired thing. Assumption moves you from wanting to being. There is no desired chase because you're already the person who has it. This shift in self-identity is the true catalyst for change. Instead of saying, I want to become wealthy, you say, I am wealthy now. Instead of, I want to find love, you say, I am already deeply loved. This change in self-concept transforms everything. Your decisions, your behaviors, and even the way people respond to you will naturally shift when you adopt a new identity. If you see yourself as successful, you will act with more confidence. You will notice opportunities you previously ignored. You will attract relationships and circumstances that match your elevated self-image. It is like an actor stepping into a role. Once the actor fully identifies with the character, their expressions, voice, and body language change naturally. They no longer try to act like the character. They are the character. In the same way, when you assume the state of your fulfilled desire, you stop trying to manifest it. You simply live as the version of yourself who already has it, and reality adjusts accordingly. A simple illustration of the difference. Imagine you want a promotion at work. Using the law of attraction, you might visualize yourself receiving the promotion. You might repeat affirmations like, I am attracting my promotion, feel excited, and try to stay in a positive vibration. But deep down, you still see yourself as someone who wants a promotion. You're waiting for your boss to choose you. Using the law of assumption, you immediately step into the identity of someone who already has the promotion. You imagine what it feels like to be in the new role. You see yourself confidently leading meetings, signing documents, or receiving congratulations from colleagues. You go about your day thinking and feeling like the person in that higher position. Because you no longer see it as a future event, your actions and energy naturally shift to align with that reality. And soon, the external circumstances follow. Why assumption feels more natural? Many people find assumption easier and more natural because it removes the sense of striving. When you're constantly trying to attract something, there's always an underlying pressure to get it right. Are you visualizing enough? Are you feeling positive enough? Are you raising your vibration high enough? This striving itself can create more resistance. Assumption, on the other hand, is simple. You close your eyes, imagine the end result, feel it as real, and persist in that feeling. You don't worry about how it will come, when it will come, or who will make it happen. You rest in the knowing that it is already done in consciousness, and the physical world is just catching up. The bottom line, the law of attraction is about attracting something toward you, while the law of assumption is about becoming the version of yourself who already has it. Attraction relies on sustaining high vibrations and positive emotions. Assumption requires you to live in the end, feeling the wish fulfilled now. Attraction can unintentionally keep you in a state of wanting, which delays the outcome. Assumption bypasses the waiting by collapsing the gap between you and your desire. Ultimately, assumption is a deeper, more direct path because it changes your state of being, your self-concept, which automatically changes your reality. When you stop wanting and start being, life no longer feels like a chase. It becomes a natural reflection of who you already are in consciousness. Why the law of attraction often feels slow. For many people, the law of attraction sounds simple in theory. Focus on what you want, think positively, visualize your desires, and watch them come into your life. But in practice, it often feels slow, inconsistent, or even disappointing. Some people see small wins, like attracting a free coffee or a random unexpected gift, but when it comes to bigger desires like wealth, career success, or deep relationships, the results seem delayed. This is not because the law of attraction doesn't work. It is always working, but because most people unknowingly send out conflicting signals. They consciously want one thing, but unconsciously assume something very different. This creates a gap between their intention and their actual state of being. To understand why this delay happens, let's look at some of the key reasons why the law of attraction often feels slow. The waiting energy of attraction, always seeking rather than embodying. When you're using the law of attraction, there's often a subtle but persistent awareness that you do not yet have what you want. You are visualizing your dream house or ideal career precisely because it is missing in your current life. Even if you feel hopeful and excited while visualizing, the underlying message is still, I want this because it's not here yet. This creates what we can call waiting energy. You're waiting for the universe to deliver. You're waiting for the circumstances to line up. You're waiting for proof. But waiting itself is an energy of lack. It acknowledges that you are separate from your desire. Think about it. If you truly believed you already had something, would you wait for it? No, you would simply live from it. But when you keep looking for signs or wondering when it will happen, you remain in the energy of wanting and longing. This is why many people who practice the law of attraction say things like, I've been visualizing for months, but nothing is showing up yet. Neville Goddard explained that this is because you cannot attract what you want. You only attract what you are. As long as you are in the state of a person who is waiting, life reflects that waiting back to you, over-focusing on the lack instead of the fulfillment. Another reason the law of attraction feels slow is because people unintentionally focus on the absence of what they want rather than the fulfillment of it. For example, someone who wants more money might affirm, I am attracting financial abundance, but as they say it, they're actually thinking about their empty bank account. Someone who wants a loving relationship might visualize their ideal partner, but as soon as they open their eyes, they feel lonely and wonder where that person is. The conscious mind says one thing, but the deeper emotional state says another. And it is the deeper emotional state that truly creates your reality. If you keep noticing what's missing, you keep reinforcing the state of, I don't have it yet. This is why many people accidentally create more lack even while trying to be positive. They read affirmations, practice gratitude, and visualize, but they do it with a mindset of I need this because I don't have it now. The universe doesn't respond to words alone. It responds to the dominant feeling behind the words. Neville put it beautifully when he said, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you believe you already are. If your inner conversation is filled with doubt, fear, or constant reminders of what's missing, your external reality will match that inner dialogue. The hidden subconscious blocks that dilute attraction efforts. Even if you consciously practice the law of attraction, your subconscious mind is often running a completely different program. The subconscious is where your deep-seated beliefs, childhood conditioning, and self-concepts live. If you grew up hearing money is hard to come by, or people like us can't have that kind of life, those beliefs are stored in the subconscious and operate automatically. So while you consciously try to attract wealth by visualizing and repeating affirmations, your subconscious may still hold the belief that you're unworthy of abundance or that money is scarce. This creates an inner conflict. The conscious mind says yes, but the subconscious says no. And the subconscious always wins because it is the deeper, more powerful level of the mind. This is why many people notice that small desires manifest easily, because they don't carry heavy, subconscious resistance. But bigger desires tied to identity, self-worth, or long-held beliefs take longer or seem impossible. The law of attraction, when practiced superficially, often doesn't address these hidden blocks, which is why results feel slow. Neville understood this issue well. He taught that you cannot simply plaster positive thoughts over a negative self-concept and expect dramatic changes. You must change the underlying state of being, the way you see yourself, and what you assume to be true about life. How Neville explained this with the concept of states. Neville Goddard's solution to these delays was the concept of states. He taught that everything you desire already exists as a state of consciousness. There is a state of wealth, a state of love, a state of health, and so on. To experience a new reality, you don't need to attract it. You simply need to occupy the state where it is already true. When you're in a state of lack, all you can see is lack. Your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions are shaped by that state. You'll notice bills piling up, opportunities slipping away, and reasons why things are hard. But when you shift into the state of abundance, your perception changes. Suddenly, you notice new opportunities. You feel inspired to take actions you previously ignored. People begin responding to you differently. This is why Neville said, states are like rooms in a house. You can move from one room to another at any time. If you're in the room of poverty, it feels real because that's the room you're in. But you can leave that room and enter the room of wealth by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Once you're in a new state, the outer world will mirror it. This concept explains why the law of attraction feels slow when you remain in the same old state. If you're trying to attract wealth while still identifying as someone who struggles with money, you're effectively staying in the same room. Visualization or affirmations may temporarily inspire you, but unless you move into the new state, nothing changes in the long run. The core problem, staying in the old identity. The slowness of the law of attraction can be traced back to one root cause, staying in the old identity. When you keep identifying as the person who lacks the desire, you keep reinforcing that version of yourself. You can visualize all you want, but if you don't change who you believe you are, you will return to the same patterns. For example, if you see yourself as someone who is trying to become wealthy, you remain in the identity of someone who doesn't have wealth yet. But if you shift your self-concept to, I am already wealthy in consciousness, you have moved into a different state. From that state, new ideas, behaviors, and opportunities naturally flow. This is why Neville's approach often feels faster. Instead of endlessly trying to attract something, you step directly into the being of the person who already has it. When you change your inner state, the outer world has no choice but to adjust. Assumption removes the waiting. The key difference between attraction and assumption is time. Attraction often feels like a process of waiting, raising your vibration, sending signals, and hoping the universe responds. Assumption collapses time by removing the waiting entirely. You live as if it is already done. You feel it real now. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you stop checking for results. You stop wondering when it will come. You rest in the knowing that it is already accomplished in consciousness, and the physical world is just a delayed reflection. This eliminates the anxiety, impatience, and doubt that slow down the manifestation process. The bottom line, the law of attraction feels slow because it often keeps you in a state of wanting. You focus on attracting something that you believe is separate from you, which reinforces the feeling of lack. Hidden subconscious blocks create resistance, and the conscious effort to stay positive can't override a deeper negative self-concept. Neville Goddard's concept of states provides the missing key. Instead of waiting and attracting, you simply assume the state of the person who already has the desire. You live in the in now, which bypasses resistance and eliminates the waiting energy. The power of state of being an assumption. Neville Goddard taught that state of being is the true key to manifestation. Your life is not shaped primarily by your efforts, affirmations, or external actions, but by the state you habitually occupy in consciousness. A state is a combination of your self-concept, assumptions, feelings, and inner conversations. It is the lens through which you perceive and experience reality. If you're in a state of lack, everything you see will confirm lack. You will notice bills, debts, delays, and reasons why things are hard. If you are in a state of abundance, you will naturally perceive opportunities, resources, and support that were always there, but hidden from your awareness. Neville called states the only reality, because every outcome you experience flows directly from the state you occupy. This means that to change your life, you don't need to fight your current circumstances. You don't have to force things externally. You simply have to change your state of being. Once you shift states, your actions, perceptions, and even the way people respond to you will automatically align with that new state. How your state determines what manifests automatically. Your state of being determines what you expect from life, and life faithfully mirrors those expectations. For example, if you occupy the state of I am unlucky, you will notice more setbacks and difficulties. If you occupy the state of I am loved and valued, people will naturally treat you with kindness and respect. If you occupy the state of I am wealthy and secure, you will encounter opportunities and ideas that lead to more wealth. This is why Neville said, "You do not get what you want, you get what you are." Your desires don't manifest because you beg for them. They manifest because you have become the person who already has them. Think of a radio station. If you're tuned to the frequency of 98.5 FM, you will hear that station's music. If you want a different station, you don't yell at the radio or beg it to play another song. You simply change the dial to a new frequency and a different reality of sound instantly appears. Your state of being works the same way. Change the state and you change the station of your life experience. This is why trying to change the outer world while staying in the same inner state often fails. If you keep the same self-concept, if you still see yourself as someone struggling, you'll unconsciously recreate the same patterns no matter how hard you try externally. But when you change the state internally, the outer world must rearrange itself to match it. Living as if versus visualizing to attract. In the law of attraction, people are often told to visualize their desires to attract them. This implies that the desire is separate and must be drawn toward you. You see yourself in the future, receiving something you currently don't have. Neville's law of assumption flips this completely. You don't visualize to attract, you visualize to be. You live as if it is already true. The purpose of imagining is not to send out a signal to the universe, but to impress your subconscious mind with the new reality so that you naturally occupy that state now. For example, suppose you want to manifest a loving relationship. Using traditional visualization, you might imagine your ideal partner walking into your life someday. But using assumption, you would imagine a short, vivid scene that implies the relationship already exists, like feeling a wedding ring on your finger, hearing your partner say, "I love you," or receiving congratulations from a friend. You are not imagining it as a future event. You are reliving it now as something already accomplished. This subtle difference is why Neville often said, live in the end. When you live in the end, you stop seeking. You stop waiting. You accept that in consciousness, it is already done. From this acceptance, the external world must catch up. Neville's example. Feeling is the secret. Neville's famous book, Feeling is the Secret, explains this principle in simple terms. He said the key to manifesting is not the specific images you create in your mind, but the feeling you generate while imagining. The subconscious mind responds to feeling, not empty words or rote affirmations. For example, you could affirm, "I am wealthy" 1,000 times a day, but if you still feel poor inside, your subconscious will continue to manifest experiences that match poverty. Conversely, if you can generate the feeling of wealth, calm, security, confidence, even for a few minutes, that feeling will impress your subconscious and begin shifting your state. Neville emphasized that the feeling must be natural and relaxed, not forced. You don't strain to believe, you simply allow yourself to feel what it would be like if the desire were already true. This is why he recommended doing this before sleep or in a drowsy state, when the mind is more open and suggestible. In that relaxed state, a simple imagined scene, done with conviction and feeling, has the power to move you into a new state of being. Feeling is the secret, he wrote, because it is the feeling that makes it real to the subconscious. What you feel you are, you will be. How to identify your current state and shift it intentionally. Before you can move into a new state, you must first become aware of the state you are currently in. Most people live on autopilot, repeating the same thoughts, emotions, and assumptions day after day. They don't realize that these habitual states are creating their repeating life patterns. To identify your current state, pay attention to your inner conversations. What do you silently tell yourself about life, money, relationships, or your abilities? Your dominant emotions. Do you often feel anxious, frustrated, hopeful, secure, or grateful? Your expectations. Deep down, do you expect things to work out for you? Or do you expect disappointment? Your self-image. How do you see yourself? As someone successful and capable, or someone struggling and unlucky? These clues will reveal the state you are occupying. For example, if you often think, "I never have enough," or feel anxious about bills, you are in the state of lack. If you silently expect good things and feel calm about money, you are in the state of abundance. Once you recognize your current state, you can intentionally shift it. Neville gave a simple method. Relax your body and mind. The best times are when you're drowsy, just before sleep or right after waking. In this state, the subconscious is most open to suggestion. Create a short imaginal scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. For example, a friend congratulating you, signing a contract, or holding the keys to your new home. Immerse yourself in the feeling. Don't just see the image. Feel it as if it is happening now. What would your heart feel like? Your breathing? Your thoughts? Accept it as done. And the imaginal act with a sense of satisfaction and relief, knowing it is already accomplished in consciousness. When you do this consistently, you naturally move into the new state. Once you are in a state of wealth, love, or success, your external life will inevitably reflect it, often through a series of normal events that bridge the gap between your old and new reality. Why shifting states is effortless once you understand it. One of the most liberating aspects of Neville's teaching is that shifting states is not hard. You don't have to work for years to earn a new reality. You don't need endless affirmations or complex rituals. You simply choose a new state and occupy it. Think of it like changing clothes. If you're wearing an old outfit that no longer serves you, you don't argue with it or try to fix it. You simply take it off and put on something new. States work the same way. You don't fix the old state of lack. You step out of it and into the state of abundance. This is why Neville said, your only limitation is your inability to feel yourself already that which you desire to be. The moment you can feel it real, you have shifted states and the rest is inevitable. The bottom line, your state of being is the true creative power behind everything you experience. It is not about working harder, affirming endlessly, or trying to force positive thoughts. It is about occupying the inner state that matches your desired reality. When you live as if it's already true, when you feel the wish fulfilled, you naturally move into a new state and life rearranges to match it. This is why Neville emphasized living in the end. Feeling is the secret, and states are the only reality. When you shift states, you shift your entire world. The science behind assumption. Neville Goddard's law of assumption may sound mystical, but its power can be understood through psychology and neuroscience. At its core, assumption is about shifting your self-concept, the internal story you hold about who you are and what is possible for you. When you live from the end result, you begin to think, feel, and act as the version of yourself who already has the desire. Over time, this internal shift rewires your brain, changes your habits, and leads to new outcomes that align with your assumed identity. Let's explore how this works from a scientific perspective, how the brain adapts to new states of being, why assumption naturally creates self-fulfilling prophecies, and the psychological principles that support this process. Neuroscience of self-concept and identity shaping. Your self-concept is like the operating system of your mind. It's the collection of beliefs, memories, and assumptions you hold about yourself, what you think you deserve, how capable you believe you are, and what you expect from life. From a neuroscience perspective, this self-concept is encoded in neural pathways. Every time you think a thought, feel an emotion, or reinforce a belief, you strengthen the corresponding neural circuits. Over years of repetition, these circuits become your default wiring. For example, if you spent years thinking, I'm not good with money, that belief is etched into your brain as a stable pattern. It influences your decisions, your attention, you notice problems instead of opportunities, and even your body's stress responses to financial situations. When you practice assumption, when you deliberately adopt the feeling of already being the person you want to become, you begin forming new neural pathways. By repeatedly imagining yourself wealthy, loved, or successful and feeling it as real, you're essentially training your brain to accept a new self-concept. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and reorganize itself based on new experiences and mental practices. Your brain doesn't know the difference between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. Both activate similar neural networks. This means when you live in the end in your imagination, you are literally rewiring your brain to match that new reality. How the brain rewires when you live from the end result. When you imagine a new state and feel it as real, three key things happen in the brain. The reticular activating system, RAS, filters your reality differently. The RAS is a network of neurons that acts as your brain's attention filter. It decides what information you notice and what you ignore. When you adopt a new assumption, your RAS starts looking for evidence that matches it. If you assume you're successful, you'll notice more opportunities and supportive people. If you assume you're unlucky, you'll see more obstacles. This explains why after shifting your state, the external world seems to magically align. You're literally tuning your brain to see new possibilities that were always there but hidden. New neural pathways replace old habit loops. The more you practice feeling the wish fulfilled, the stronger those new neural pathways become. Old patterns of doubt, fear, and lack start to weaken through a process called synaptic pruning. The brain naturally lets go of unused pathways. Over time, the new identity feels more natural because the brain now expects it. Your brain releases chemicals that reinforce the new state. When you imagine success or love and feel good about it, your brain releases dopamine, the reward neurotransmitter. This creates motivation to act in alignment with that feeling. Similarly, imagining safety and abundance can lower cortisol, the stress hormone, shifting your physiology into a calm, receptive state. So when Neville said, assumption hardens into fact, he was describing what neuroscience now confirms. Mental rehearsal literally changes the brain in ways that lead to different behaviors and, eventually, different outcomes. Why assumption creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Psychologically, your assumptions act like powerful self-fulfilling prophecies. Here's why. Your beliefs shape your behavior. If you assume you're successful, you naturally make bolder decisions, take more risks, and approach challenges with confidence. If you assume you'll fail, you hold back, avoid opportunities, and confirm your fear. Your behavior shapes how others respond. People subconsciously pick up on your confidence, or lack of it, and treat you accordingly. If you assume you're worthy of respect, you carry yourself differently, and others respond with respect. Your behavior creates evidence that reinforces the assumption. Over time, the small wins you experience while living in a new state create external proof that your assumption was true. For example, imagine two people interviewing for the same job. One assumes, I'm not qualified, they probably won't hire me. The other assumes, I'm exactly what they're looking for. This job is already mine. Who will likely give a better impression? The confident candidate will speak with more ease, make better eye contact, and handle questions smoothly, leading the interviewer to see them as more capable. The same dynamic plays out in money, relationships, health, virtually every area of life. Your inner state determines how you show up, and how you show up shapes the world's response. This is why assumption works. By becoming the version of yourself who already has the desire, you naturally create the external conditions that make it true. Psychological parallels, cognitive reframing, and identity-based change. Modern psychology offers concepts that align closely with Neville's teachings. Cognitive reframing. This is the practice of changing the meaning you give to events or situations. If something bad happens, reframing it as neutral or even beneficial changes your emotional response and your future actions. Neville's revision technique, imagining past events differently, is a form of cognitive reframing. When you revise the meaning of a past experience in imagination, you change the way your subconscious interprets it, which alters its effect on your present state. Identity-based change. Behavioral psychology shows that long-lasting change comes not from focusing on goals, but from shifting your identity. For example, instead of saying, I want to lose weight, you say, I am a healthy, active person. When you change your identity, the behaviors naturally follow. This is exactly what Neville meant by living in the end. You don't try to achieve wealth. You assume the identity of a wealthy person now. You don't try to attract love. You become someone who is already loved and loving. From that identity, you think and act differently, leading to new results. The placebo effect. The placebo effect is a scientifically documented phenomenon where believing in a treatment creates real physical changes, even when the treatment is fake. This shows how powerful belief and expectation are in shaping reality. Assumption works similarly. Your deep acceptance of a new state triggers mental, emotional, and even physical shifts that bring it to life. Living in the end, how it trains the brain. When you live in the end, when you imagine and feel your desire as already real, you are essentially training your brain to accept it as your current reality. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. If you repeatedly impress it with the feeling of fulfillment, it begins operating as if it's already true. For example, a study with athletes showed that mental rehearsal of their sport activated the same brain regions as physically practicing it. After weeks of visualization, their performance improved just as if they had physically trained. This demonstrates that your brain doesn't care whether the experience is physical or imagined. It responds the same way. Neville understood this decades before neuroscience confirmed it. By vividly imagining the end result, you impress your subconscious, shift your state of being, and set into motion a chain of behaviors and responses that inevitably lead to the external manifestation. From science back to spirituality. What's fascinating is how science and spirituality meet here. Neville described assumption in spiritual terms, imagination as God, feeling as the creative force. But modern psychology and neuroscience now explain how it works on a biological level. When you assume a new identity, you activate neuroplasticity to rewire your brain. You shift your RAS to notice new opportunities. You change your physiology, hormones, stress responses to align with the new state. You act differently, leading to different results. So while Neville framed it as consciousness creates reality, science shows the mechanisms through which that consciousness reshapes your brain, body, and behavior, ultimately reshaping your life. The bottom line, the law of assumption is not just a mystical idea. It aligns with how the human brain and mind work. Your assumptions form your self-concept, which shapes your behaviors, perceptions, and even your biology. When you live from the end, imagining and feeling your desire as already real, you create new neural pathways, shift your identity, and set in motion a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is why Neville could confidently say, "Dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part to express it." Wealth and money consciousness. Money is one of the most common desires people try to manifest, yet it's also where they experience the most resistance. Many struggle to attract wealth consistently, even after reading countless books on the law of attraction or practicing visualization and affirmations. Neville Goddard's law of assumption offers a deeper, more direct way to transform your relationship with money, not by chasing it, but by shifting the state of consciousness from which it flows. Let's explore how both the law of attraction and the law of assumption relate to wealth, why scarcity and abundance are simply states of mind, why Neville called money a shadow of your inner state, and how shifting your identity to that of a wealthy person naturally dissolves financial struggle. How LOA and assumption relate to wealth creation. The law of attraction says that like attracts like. If you want more money, you should focus on abundance, feel gratitude, and raise your vibration so you align with wealth. The idea is that by thinking positively about money and expecting more, you'll attract opportunities and resources. The problem is that most people focus on money from a state of lack. They visualize their dream bank balance while secretly worrying about bills. They affirm, "I am wealthy," while feeling anxious about how to pay rent. The conscious mind tries to attract wealth, but the subconscious still identifies with poverty. This inner conflict slows results. Neville's law of assumption removes this conflict by going straight to the root, state of being. Instead of trying to get more money, you become the version of yourself who is already wealthy. You no longer see money as something outside yourself to chase. You assume the feeling of financial freedom now. This doesn't mean you sit and wait for money to fall from the sky. Rather, when you occupy the state of wealth, you think and act like a wealthy person would. Your decisions, habits, and even your opportunities begin to align with this new state. The outer wealth is simply a reflection of the inner change. Scarcity versus abundant states. Neville explained that life reflects your state of consciousness. Scarcity and abundance are not external conditions. They are internal states. You can have very little money but live in an abundant state, or have millions in the bank and still live in fear and scarcity. Scarcity state. You feel there's never enough. You worry about losing what you have. You compare yourself to others and feel behind. Even when money comes, it slips away quickly because your inner state still expects lack. Abundant state. You feel secure and trusting. You know there's always more than enough. You naturally expect opportunities, generosity, and flow. Money becomes just one of many ways life supports you. Most people unknowingly remain in a scarcity state even while trying to attract abundance. They think about what's missing. They watch their bank account obsessively. They feel desperate for change. This reinforces the vibration of lack. Shifting to an abundant state starts with being abundant in consciousness now. Even before money shows up physically, you cultivate the feeling of already having enough. You trust that wealth is inevitable because it already exists in consciousness. From this relaxed and fulfilled state, your external finances begin to reflect that inner abundance. Why Neville said money is a shadow of your inner state. Neville often said that money is not the true cause of wealth. It's a shadow or byproduct of your inner state. If you focus only on the money itself, you're chasing the shadow rather than the source. Think of it this way. Imagine a tree in sunlight. The shadow it casts is simply a reflection of the tree's shape. If you want to change the shadow, you don't grab at it on the ground. You change the tree itself. In the same way, your outer finances are the shadow of your self-concept around money. If you feel unworthy of wealth, you will unconsciously sabotage opportunities. If you feel that making money is hard, you will create experiences that confirm that belief. But if you see yourself as wealthy and capable, money naturally flows as a reflection of that inner certainty. Neville emphasized that it is not money you want, but the feeling money gives you: freedom, security, joy, the ability to give and receive. When you cultivate those feelings within, money becomes just one of many channels through which life expresses them. This is why many people who win the lottery lose it quickly. They haven't shifted their inner state. They still see themselves as poor, so life reorganizes to match that self-image. On the other hand, someone who assumes themselves to be wealthy will naturally rebuild wealth even if they temporarily lose it, because the inner state sustains the outer reality. Shifting identity to a wealthy person. The most powerful way to create lasting financial change is not by trying to attract money, but by changing your identity. Stop seeing yourself as someone trying to become wealthy and start seeing yourself as a wealthy person now. Ask yourself, how does a wealthy person feel about money? How do they make decisions? How do they view opportunities? How do they handle unexpected expenses? When you imagine yourself already wealthy, you'll notice that the energy is completely different. A wealthy person doesn't panic over a bill. They don't feel guilty about spending on themselves. They don't doubt that more money will come. You can begin to adopt this wealthy self-image even if your current bank balance doesn't match it. For example, instead of saying, "I can't afford that," you say it's not a priority right now, but money always comes when I need it. Instead of obsessively checking your account, you relax and trust that more is on the way. Instead of feeling small around wealthy people, you see yourself as their equal because in consciousness you already are. When you consistently occupy this identity, your external reality must catch up. You'll notice new income streams, unexpected windfalls, and ideas you never considered before because you're no longer filtering life through the lens of lack. An example, the shift from lack to wealth state. Imagine two people starting from the same financial situation, barely scraping by, stressed about bills. Person A uses the law of attraction. They visualize checks arriving, say affirmations like, "Money is coming to me," but inside they still feel desperate. They check their account daily, worry about how it will happen, and live in anxiety. Their energy remains in scarcity, so money trickles in slowly, often just enough to cover immediate needs. Person B uses the law of assumption. They stop focusing on the lack. Every night, they imagine a simple scene that implies wealth, like a friend saying, "You're doing so well now." They feel the relief and security of already being financially free. During the day, they make decisions from the mindset of someone stable and abundant. Soon, new opportunities show up because they're no longer acting from fear. Within months, their external situation begins to mirror their new inner wealth state. The difference isn't in effort, it's in state. Person B stepped into the identity of someone wealthy, so life reorganized to match it. How to practice wealth assumption daily. Neville suggested a simple daily practice to shift into the wealth state. Relax your mind and body. Do this at night when you're drowsy. Imagine a simple, vivid scene that implies wealth. For example, holding a bank statement with your desired balance or a friend congratulating you. Feel the relief and satisfaction of already having it. Focus on the feeling of freedom, security, and joy, not just the numbers. Persist in this feeling daily, even if nothing changes immediately. Keep returning to the state of, "I am already wealthy." With repetition, your subconscious will accept this new identity as real. Your thoughts, behaviors, and opportunities will naturally shift to reflect it. Scarcity can't survive in a wealth state. The beautiful thing about the law of assumption is that once you occupy the wealth state, scarcity loses its power. You stop reacting to temporary financial setbacks with fear. You stop feeling inferior to others. You stop chasing money because you know it's already yours in consciousness. This calm, confident energy is what allows true wealth to grow. It's not about forcing yourself to believe. You simply feel it real and let the outer world rearrange itself to match. The bottom line, wealth is not created by obsessively trying to attract money. It's created by shifting your inner state. Scarcity and abundance are not conditions out there. They are reflections of what you assume to be true about yourself. Money itself is only a shadow. The real substance is your self-concept. When you stop seeing yourself as someone struggling to become wealthy and start living as the person who already is, you move into a new state of being. From that state, new ideas, opportunities, and resources flow effortlessly because they're now in alignment with who you are. Instead of saying, "I can't afford that," you say it's not a priority right now, but money always comes when I need it. Instead of obsessively checking your account, you relax and trust that more is on the way. Instead of feeling small around wealthy people, you see yourself as their equal because in consciousness you already are. When you consistently occupy this identity, your external reality must catch up. You'll notice new income streams, unexpected windfalls, and ideas you never considered before because you're no longer filtering life through the lens of lack. An example, the shift from lack to wealth state. Imagine two people starting from the same financial situation, barely scraping by, stressed about bills. Person A uses the law of attraction. They visualize checks arriving, say affirmations like, "Money is coming to me," but inside they still feel desperate. They check their account daily, worry about how it will happen, and live in anxiety. Their energy remains in scarcity, so money trickles in slowly, often just enough to cover immediate needs. Person B uses the law of assumption. They stop focusing on the lack. Every night, they imagine a simple scene that implies wealth, like a friend saying, "You're doing so well now." They feel the relief and security of already being financially free. During the day, they make decisions from the mindset of someone stable and abundant. Soon, new opportunities show up because they're no longer acting from fear. Within months, their external situation begins to mirror their new inner wealth state. The difference isn't in effort, it's in state. Person B stepped into the identity of someone wealthy, so life reorganized to match it. How to practice wealth assumption daily. Neville suggested a simple daily practice to shift into the wealth state. Relax your mind and body. Do this at night when you're drowsy. Imagine a simple, vivid scene that implies wealth. For example, holding a bank statement with your desired balance, or a friend congratulating you. Feel the relief and satisfaction of already having it. Focus on the feeling of freedom, security, and joy, not just the numbers. Persist in this feeling daily, even if nothing changes immediately. Keep returning to the state of, "I am already wealthy." With repetition, your subconscious will accept this new identity as real. Your thoughts, behaviors, and opportunities will naturally shift to reflect it. Scarcity can't survive in a wealth state. The beautiful thing about the law of assumption is that once you occupy the wealth state, scarcity loses its power. You stop reacting to temporary financial setbacks with fear. You stop feeling inferior to others. You stop chasing money because you know it's already yours in consciousness. This calm, confident energy is what allows true wealth to grow. It's not about forcing yourself to believe. You simply feel it real and let the outer world rearrange itself to match. The bottom line, wealth is not created by obsessively trying to attract money. It's created by shifting your inner state. Scarcity and abundance are not conditions out there. They are reflections of what you assume to be true about yourself. Money itself is only a shadow. The real substance is your self-concept. When you stop seeing yourself as someone struggling to become wealthy and start living as the person who already is, you move into a new state of being. From that state, new ideas, opportunities, and resources flow effortlessly because they're now in alignment with who you are. Neville's wealth success case studies. Neville Goddard's teachings on wealth and prosperity were not theoretical. He shared countless real-life success stories from students, people who applied the law of assumption and experienced dramatic financial transformations. These stories illustrate how assuming the end result, rather than trying to attract money, bypasses struggle and resistance. Let's explore some of Neville's most famous wealth success case studies, like the man who imagined checks arriving and received unexpected income, and the woman who assumed living in her dream home, and how these differ from traditional law of attraction success stories. The man who imagined checks arriving. One of Neville's most popular case studies involves a man who was in desperate financial need. He attended Neville's lecture feeling discouraged because his income had been stagnant for months. Neville taught him to stop focusing on how the money would come and instead assume the feeling of already being financially free. The man went home and created a simple imaginal scene. He imagined holding an envelope in his hands and feeling the weight of a check inside. He visualized opening it, reading the amount, and feeling a deep sense of relief and gratitude. He didn't try to guess where the money would come from. He simply assumed it was already his. He repeated this every night before sleep, immersing himself in the satisfaction of already having received the check. Within a few weeks, unexpected income began pouring in. Commissions he had forgotten about, refunds, and even surprise gifts from relatives. He ended up receiving several checks in the exact way he had imagined. Neville explained that the key was not the specific image of a check, but the feeling it generated. By assuming the end result, "I have already been paid," the man entered a new state of consciousness. Life then reorganized to reflect that state. The woman who assumed living in her dream home. Another powerful case came from a woman who longed to move into her dream home, but felt it was financially out of reach. She had been practicing traditional law of attraction methods, cutting out pictures of houses, writing affirmations, and visualizing, but nothing was changing. After hearing Neville speak, she changed her approach. Instead of trying to attract the house, she imagined already living there. Every night before sleep, she mentally walked through the rooms. She felt her hand on the banister of the staircase. She imagined looking out the windows at the exact view she desired. She even imagined entertaining friends in her beautiful new home and hearing them say, "It's so lovely here." Within a few months, the exact home she had imagined became available under highly unusual circumstances. The price dropped dramatically, and she was able to move in without the financial strain she had feared. Neville explained that she did not manifest the house by willing it into existence. She simply occupied the state of already being the homeowner. Her external reality then matched her inner assumption. A businessman who doubled his income. In another story, a businessman attended one of Neville's lectures about wealth. He had been trying for years to grow his business, but felt stuck in a plateau. Neville told him that effort and struggle were not the solution. Changing his concept of himself was. The man went home and began to imagine simple scenes that implied business success. He saw himself shaking hands with new clients, signing contracts, and receiving congratulations from his colleagues. Importantly, he didn't dwell on how it would happen. He simply assumed the feeling of success. Within months, his business began attracting larger accounts and partnerships. He doubled his income within a year. When he wrote to Neville, he said the biggest change wasn't just the external money, but the way he felt about himself. He no longer saw himself as someone trying to succeed, but as someone who naturally was successful. That identity shift made all the difference. The woman who received an inheritance. Neville also shared a story about a woman in his audience who had no apparent means of acquiring wealth. She was unemployed, struggling to make ends meet, and had no savings. After learning Neville's technique, she decided to imagine a scene that implied financial freedom. She pictured herself telling her sister, "I'm completely taken care of now. I don't have to worry about money anymore." She felt the relief and joy of that statement being true. Weeks later, she unexpectedly received news of a distant relative who had passed away and left her a substantial inheritance. She had no idea this relative had included her in the will. Neville pointed out that the inheritance was simply the bridge of incidents the universe used to bring her into alignment with her inner assumption. She didn't know how money would come. She simply assumed the end, and life arranged the details. How these differ from traditional LOA success stories. At first glance, these success stories might sound similar to traditional law of attraction stories, but there are crucial differences. Focus on being, not getting. In traditional LOA, the focus is often on getting money or a house. In Neville's method, the focus is on being the person who already has it. This subtle shift bypasses the waiting energy that slows LOA results. Imagining the end, not the process. LOA often emphasizes visualizing the steps, seeing opportunities appear, picturing the journey. Neville taught to skip all the how and imagine only the end result as already done. Feeling is the secret. LOA sometimes reduces manifestation to thinking positively or raising your vibration. Neville emphasized feeling it real. It's not about thinking wealth. It's about embodying the feeling of being wealthy. No need for external signs. Many LOA practitioners look for synchronicities or signs that their manifestation is coming. Neville's students didn't wait for signs. They simply knew it was already done in consciousness, so the physical world had no choice but to follow. Effortless bridges of incidents. In LOA, people sometimes obsess over the actions they need to take. Neville taught that when you assume the end, life creates a bridge of incidents, natural, effortless events that lead you to your desired outcome without strain. Why assumption works faster. These stories show why Neville's method often works faster than traditional LOA. When you live in the end, you eliminate the energy of wanting or waiting. You no longer reinforce the belief that the desire is separate. Instead, you collapse the gap between you and the goal by embodying it now. Neville explained this beautifully. To desire a state is to have it. Your desire is nothing more than the awareness of something already existing in consciousness, live in the end, and you will draw that state into your reality. What these case studies teach us. From these stories, we can draw a few key lessons about wealth manifestation with the law of assumption. You don't need to know how it will happen. The how is not your job. Your only job is to assume the end. Your imaginal scene should be short and simple. A few seconds of vivid feeling are more powerful than hours of overthinking. Persistence is key. Even if nothing seems to change at first, keep returning to the feeling of already having it. When the inner shift is genuine, the outer shift is inevitable. Life will create a natural sequence of events, sometimes in ways you could never have predicted. Beyond money, the true wealth. Neville also reminded his students that true wealth is not just about money. Money is a convenient tool, but the deeper gift is the freedom and self-confidence that comes from knowing you are the operant power. When you realize you can assume any state, wealth, love, health, you become free from fear and limitation. So these case studies are not just about receiving checks or buying houses. They're about discovering your creative power and realizing that abundance is an inner state first. The bottom line, Neville's wealth case studies show that financial success doesn't come from chasing money or forcing external conditions. It comes from a shift in consciousness. When you assume the feeling of already being wealthy, the physical world reorganizes to match that inner reality. Unlike traditional LOA, which often keeps you in a state of wanting, the law of assumption moves you directly into being. From that state, money, Opportunities and resources flow naturally as a reflection of who you now are. Modern wealth case studies with assumption. While Neville Goddard's teachings come from the mid-20th century, the law of assumption is timeless. In today's world, countless people, entrepreneurs, professionals, and everyday individuals are still applying this principle to transform their financial lives. These modern success stories show that assumption is not an outdated mystical idea, but a practical, repeatable process that works when you fully embrace it. Let's explore real-life examples of people who achieved financial freedom by shifting their identity before the money appeared. Entrepreneurs who grew their businesses, employees who received promotions and raises, and individuals who experienced unexpected financial blessings. 1. The entrepreneur who doubled her income in 6 months. Sarah was a freelance graphic designer, stuck in a feast or famine cycle. Some months she had good projects, but most months she barely scraped by. She believed that making more money required hustling harder or finding better clients. But no matter how many marketing strategies she tried, her income plateaued. After discovering Neville's teachings, Sarah realized her real problem was her self-concept. Deep down, she still saw herself as a struggling freelancer. She was assuming, "I'm not a high-value professional," and her reality reflected that. She began practicing assumption in a simple way. Each night before sleep, she imagined opening her email inbox and seeing messages from clients praising her work and asking for new projects. She felt the excitement and security of having more than enough clients. Most importantly, she imagined herself as already thriving, calm, confident, and financially stable. Within a few weeks, Sarah noticed a change. She felt more confident in pricing her services higher. She started attracting clients who valued her work without negotiation. Unexpected referrals came from old connections. Within 6 months, she had doubled her monthly income without adding more hours or chasing clients. Sarah later said the key was living from the end. She stopped seeing herself as someone trying to get better clients and instead became the version of herself who naturally attracts premium clients. The external business growth was simply a reflection of that internal shift. 2. The employee who manifested a promotion without asking. David worked at a large tech company and felt overlooked for promotions. He often told himself, "I'm not management material," and compared himself to more experienced colleagues. When he learned about the law of assumption, he realized his identity as just another employee was blocking his growth. He decided to practice a new assumption: "I am already in a leadership role." Every night, he imagined shaking hands with his boss as they congratulated him on his promotion. He visualized signing the promotion letter and felt the pride of achieving it. He didn't ask for a promotion or force any external changes. But within 3 months, a senior manager unexpectedly left, creating an opening. To David's surprise, his boss called him in and said, "We've been watching your work and think you're perfect for this position." He was promoted without having to apply or compete. David later reflected that he became the promoted version of himself internally before it showed up externally. His behavior subtly changed. He spoke with more confidence, offered ideas in meetings, and took initiative naturally because his inner state was already aligned with being a leader. 3. The couple who cleared debt and attracted extra income. A married couple, Maria and Luis, were struggling under heavy credit card debt. They constantly worried about money, checked their accounts daily, and felt trapped. When they discovered Neville's teachings, they decided to stop obsessing over the debt and instead assume financial freedom. Each night before bed, they did a simple imaginal act together. They closed their eyes and imagined a close friend saying, "I'm so happy for you. No more debt. You're finally free." They felt the relief, the lightness, the joy of being financially clear. Over the next few months, unexpected things happened. Luis received a bonus at work he didn't know was coming. Maria's part-time hobby, selling handmade crafts, suddenly attracted more online orders. A family member offered to repay money they had borrowed years earlier. Within a year, the couple paid off all their debt. Maria said the turning point was when they stopped acting from desperation and started feeling free first. From that new state, the right opportunities appeared without force. 4. The investor who shifted from fear to abundance. Tom was interested in real estate investing, but was paralyzed by fear of failure. He read books on the law of attraction, but still felt anxious about money. Then he learned Neville's method of living in the end. Instead of visualizing the process of buying properties, Tom began imagining the end result, already being a successful investor with thriving properties. He pictured himself receiving rental income statements and hearing friends congratulate him on his success. As he persisted in this assumption, his mindset shifted. He started noticing great deals he had previously ignored. He naturally connected with mentors and supportive networks. Within 2 years, Tom owned 3 income-producing properties. Tom explained that the biggest change wasn't external, but internal. Once he assumed the identity of a confident investor, Fear dissolved and action became natural. The opportunities were always there. His state simply hadn't allowed him to see them before. 5. The unexpected bonus story. A young woman named Elena wanted to manifest more money but didn't know how it could happen. She worked an entry-level job with no immediate prospects for a raise. Instead of focusing on how, she chose a simple assumption: I always have more money than I need. She imagined herself looking at her bank account and feeling pleasantly surprised at the balance. She did this nightly for a few minutes and then let it go. 2 weeks later, her company announced an unplanned profit-sharing bonus for all employees due to an exceptionally good quarter. Elena received a check large enough to cover several of her pressing expenses. She realized that she hadn't forced anything. She simply assumed financial ease, and life responded in an effortless way. What these modern case studies have in common. When you look at these modern stories, a clear pattern emerges. They shifted identity first. Instead of focusing on a lack of money, each person imagined being the version of themselves who already had wealth, success, or freedom. They didn't chase the how. None of them obsessed over the exact steps. They simply assumed the end result was done, and life created a natural bridge of incidents to bring it about. They focused on feeling, not forcing. They didn't just repeat empty affirmations. They felt what it would be like to already have the outcome. They persisted despite current reality. Even when nothing seemed to change at first, they continued to live in the new state internally until the outer world caught up. External changes felt natural. None of these stories involved miracles that felt unrealistic. The money, opportunities, or promotions came through logical, believable channels, but in ways that seemed perfectly timed. Lessons learned from modern assumption success. From these examples, we can extract a few key lessons for applying the law of assumption to wealth today. Your state creates your opportunities. When you occupy a new state of wealth or success, you naturally notice things you previously overlooked. What seemed impossible before becomes obvious once you change internally. Small imaginal acts are enough. You don't need long, complicated visualizations. A few seconds of vivid feeling, done consistently, can shift your subconscious more effectively than hours of forced effort. You don't have to control the bridge of incidents. Life knows how to bring you from where you are to where you want to be. Your job is only to assume the end and persist. Identity change leads to natural action. When you assume yourself to be wealthy or successful, you naturally take aligned actions without overthinking. You start behaving like the person who already has the result. Wealth is more about how you see yourself than what you currently have. The outer balance in your account is just a reflection. Change the self-concept and the numbers will follow. How these differ from typical LOA stories. Many traditional law of attraction stories focus on attracting a specific event, winning a lottery, receiving a random gift, or visualizing a certain amount of money. While those can work, they often leave people waiting for external validation. Modern assumption success stories go deeper. They show that when you embody the state of someone who is already abundant, the external wealth becomes an inevitable byproduct. It's less about luck and more about becoming the kind of person for whom wealth is normal. The bottom line, these modern case studies prove that Neville's law of assumption is as powerful today as it was decades ago. Whether it's an entrepreneur growing her business, an employee landing an unexpected promotion, or a couple clearing debt, the core principle remains the same. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you assume yourself to be. When you shift from, I'm trying to get money, to I am already wealthy, your subconscious begins to reorganize your life to match that identity. From that new state, promotions, opportunities, clients, and unexpected income flow naturally. The living in the end method. Living in the end is one of Neville Goddard's most powerful teachings. It's the practice of moving beyond merely wanting or wishing for something and stepping into the state of already having it. Instead of thinking about the desire as a future goal, you mentally and emotionally experience it as done. This method is at the heart of the law of assumption. When you live in the end, you collapse the gap between who you are now and who you want to be. You stop operating from the energy of lack or waiting, and instead, you embody the reality you want right now in your consciousness. Let's explore what it truly means to live in the end, how to apply it specifically for wealth, practical mental rehearsal techniques, and how to overcome doubt when the outer world, the 3D reality, doesn't yet match your inner assumption. What it truly means to live in the end. Living in the end is not about pretending or daydreaming. It's about occupying the state of the fulfilled desire. Neville explained it like this. To live in the end is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You begin to feel yourself to be the one you want to be, and by this assumption, you become it. Here's what it really means. You stop seeing your desire as something separate from you. You accept it as already yours in consciousness. You no longer dwell on the how or when. The end result is already true in imagination, so the details are not your concern. You shift your inner dialogue. Instead of saying, I will be wealthy, you say, I am wealthy. You don't hope, You emotionally align with the outcome. You feel the relief, gratitude, and naturalness of already living it. For example, if your desire is financial freedom, living in the end means you feel like someone who already has more than enough. You make decisions as someone who trusts money always flows. You don't think, when I get money, I'll feel free. You feel that freedom now, applying living in the end for wealth. When it comes to wealth, living in the end means embodying the identity of a wealthy person right now, even if your current bank account says otherwise. Here's how you can apply it step by step. Define the end. What does wealth mean to you? Is it a certain income, a debt-free life, owning your dream home, or feeling financially free? Get clear on what the end state would feel like. Create a simple, natural scene. Imagine a short moment that would only be possible if you were already wealthy. For example, seeing a friend congratulate you on your financial success, checking your bank account and seeing an abundant balance, signing a contract for your dream home. Keep the scene simple, just a few seconds long, but make it believable and emotionally satisfying. Feel it real. As you imagine, don't focus on the money itself. Focus on the feeling. What does financial freedom feel like? Relief? Security? Joy? Confidence? Let those feelings fill you until they feel normal. Persist in the state. Do this nightly before sleep when your mind is most receptive. During the day, whenever you think about money, gently shift your inner conversation to match the end. It's already taken care of. I always have more than enough. Living in the end is less about trying to manifest and more about simply being the person who already has what you want. Mental rehearsal techniques. Mental rehearsal is the bridge between where you are and the state you want to occupy. It's more than visualization. It's an immersive experience that convinces your subconscious mind that the end is real. Here are 3 powerful mental rehearsal techniques for wealth. Imaginal conversations. Imagine a loved one or friend talking to you as if your desire is already fulfilled. For example, friend, wow, you're doing so well financially now. You deserve it. Yes, it feels amazing to finally be free and abundant. This makes the scene feel alive and personal, which impresses the subconscious more deeply. First-person point of view. Don't see yourself as an outside observer. See through your own eyes. Imagine looking at your phone and reading a text from the bank saying, your balance has been updated. Imagine your hands holding a check or a contract. This makes the experience feel real now, not like a fantasy. Feel the after effect. Instead of focusing on getting the money, imagine the after effect. For example, the relief of paying off debt, the excitement of sharing good news with your family, the calm confidence of knowing you have financial stability. These techniques work because the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a real one. If you impress the feeling strongly enough, the subconscious accepts it as true and begins to reorganize your external reality to match. Overcoming doubt when 3D reality contradicts the assumption. One of the biggest challenges in living in the end is when your current physical reality, the 3D world, doesn't match your inner vision. You might still see bills piling up or have the same paycheck coming in, and doubt creeps in. This isn't working. Here's how to overcome that doubt. Understand the delay. Neville explained that the outer world is always a reflection of past states. What you see now is simply the echo of old assumptions. It may take time for the new assumption to harden into fact. So don't take the current reality as proof. It's already outdated. Detach from the how and when. The bridge of incidents, the sequence of events that leads to your desire, may unfold in ways you can't predict. Trying to control or monitor it only creates more resistance. Your only job is to stay in the end. Refuse to react to lack. When something triggers fear, like an unexpected expense, remind yourself, this is temporary. My inner state is already wealth. Keep your attention on the inner reality rather than reacting to the outer. Make the feeling the priority. The goal isn't to manipulate the outer world instantly. It's to maintain the feeling of fulfillment. When the feeling becomes natural, the physical change is inevitable. Neville put it simply, persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and it will harden into fact. The world is a mirror, not a cause. A simple example of living in the end for wealth. Let's say your desire is to earn $10,000 a month. Living in the end does not mean obsessing over how you'll get new clients, what business model to use, or when it will happen. Instead, you create a short scene. Mental diets versus vibrational work. When people first learn about manifestation, they often hear 2 seemingly similar but fundamentally different approaches. Raising your vibration, common in the law of attraction community, and mental diets, a core concept in Neville Goddard's law of assumption. Both aim to align you with your desired reality, but they operate differently. In this section, We'll explore the distinction between vibrational work and mental diets, how to maintain inner consistency with a new identity, how to guard against contradictory thoughts and feelings, and how Neville's powerful technique of revision can be used to shift money and success stories in your favor. Vibrational work and the law of attraction. The law of attraction teaches that everything is energy and has a vibration. If you want wealth, you must match the vibration of abundance. This often involves practicing gratitude, doing high-energy activities, visualizing and feeling good, avoiding low vibration, thoughts like fear, lack, or doubt. The idea is that when your vibration is high, you attract things of a similar frequency. If you're thinking positively and feeling abundant, you'll draw more abundance into your life. While vibrational work can be helpful, it sometimes creates a subtle trap. You feel you have to constantly chase high vibes, and when you don't feel good, you believe you're sabotaging your manifestation. It can lead to pressure, frustration, or vibration guilt, thinking, oh no, I'm feeling negative, so now I'm blocking my desire. Neville took a different approach. Mental diets in the law of assumption. Neville Goddard emphasized mental diets, not trying to force positive emotions, but consciously directing your thoughts toward the end you desire and refusing to entertain contradictory inner conversations. Here's how Neville defined it. A mental diet means that you commit yourself to thinking only those thoughts that contribute to the realization of your goal. Instead of obsessing about whether your vibration is high or low, a mental diet focuses on inner consistency. You deliberately assume thoughts that align with your desired state, e.g., I am financially free. When an old or negative thought arises, e.g., I'm broke, you gently replace it with a new truth, e.g., that was the old me. I always have more than enough. You watch your inner conversations carefully because your self-talk shapes your reality. This approach is powerful because it doesn't require you to feel good all the time. You might still have off days emotionally, but if your dominant inner dialogue matches the end, it will still manifest. Why mental diets create stability. The law of assumption teaches that the subconscious mind accepts whatever you persistently assume to be true, whether or not you're feeling ecstatic about it. By maintaining a disciplined mental diet, you're consistently feeding the subconscious a clear, unwavering message. Think of it like planting seeds. If you plant a seed of wealth but keep digging it up with contradictory thoughts like, this is too hard, or money doesn't come easily, you delay the growth. If you plant the seed and leave it alone, meaning you persist in the end and don't contradict it, the seed naturally grows. So mental diets are about consistency rather than intensity. You don't have to force yourself into a high vibe all day. You simply refuse to let old, limiting thoughts dominate. How to maintain inner consistency with a new identity. When you adopt a new identity, say from someone who struggles with money to someone who is naturally wealthy, the key is to stay loyal to the new story. Here's how to do it. Be aware of old thoughts. The first step is awareness. Catch yourself when you're slipping into the old identity. Thoughts like, I can't afford this, or it's so hard to make money, are remnants of the past state. Instantly replace, don't argue. Don't fight the old thought, just gently replace it. For example, old, I'm worried about my bills. New, I always have more than enough. It's already taken care of. Normalize the new identity. Imagine how a wealthy, successful version of you thinks. They're not obsessing over lack. They're calm and secure. Begin to think and act like that person, even in small ways. Inner conversations as reality. Throughout the day, have inner conversations that reflect the new state. For example, I love how abundant my life feels now. It's amazing how opportunities just come to me. By doing this consistently, you train your subconscious to accept the new state as natural, guarding against contradictory thoughts and feelings. Contradictory thoughts are like mixed signals to the subconscious. If you say, I'm wealthy, but constantly worry, what if it doesn't happen? You're creating resistance. Here are ways to guard against this. Pause before reacting to 3D reality. If an unexpected bill arrives, don't spiral into panic. Remind yourself, this is just an old reflection. My inner reality is already abundant. Limit negative influences. If you're constantly surrounded by scarcity talk, news about economic crashes, people complaining about money, it can reinforce lack. Protect your mental space by consuming content that supports abundance. Detach from a need for instant proof. Don't keep checking your bank account as evidence of success. That only reinforces waiting. Instead, trust the inner assumption more than the outer appearance. Persist through emotional waves. Some days you'll feel doubt. That's normal. Persist anyway. Neville said feelings will catch up with the assumption as you persist, even if you don't feel strong emotions at first. Neville's technique of revision for money and success. One of Neville's most powerful tools for mental diets is revision. Revision means going back to a past event or even a recent thought and imagining it happening differently, how you wish it had happened. Why does this work? Because your subconscious doesn't distinguish between memory and imagination. When you revise the past, you're actually changing how it exists in your inner reality, which reshapes the future. Here's how to use revision for money and success. Identify a limiting memory. Maybe you had an experience of being rejected for a promotion or losing money in the past. That memory reinforces the belief, I'm not successful with money. Close your eyes and rewrite it. Instead of replaying the disappointment, imagine the event going the way you wanted. If you were denied a promotion, revise it. Imagine your boss saying, "Congratulations on your well-deserved promotion." Feel the joy and relief. Repeat until it feels real. Do this nightly until the revised version feels more natural than the original memory. By revising, you dissolve the old limiting state and replace it with a new one. That shift then manifests in your present and future reality. For example, if you revise the memory of a failed business deal into a successful one, your subconscious begins to expect success instead of failure. If you revise the feeling of "I can't afford things" into "I always have more than enough," your state of consciousness naturally moves toward wealth. Neville students have shared stories of revising financial mistakes and then unexpectedly receiving refunds, promotions, or new income streams because the inner state changed. Mental diet plus revision equals powerful combination. When you combine a mental diet with revision, you're essentially doing two things. Guarding the present. By staying on a mental diet, you keep your current inner conversations aligned with your desired state. Clearing the past. By revising, you dissolve old states of failure, scarcity, or rejection that could still be influencing your subconscious. This creates a clean mental environment for wealth and success to flourish without resistance. A simple daily mental diet for wealth. Here's an example of how a daily mental diet could look. Morning. As you wake up, affirm your new identity. Today I live as someone who is financially free and successful. During the day, whenever you catch an old thought, gently replace it. Old. This is too expensive. New. I always have more than enough for what I need and want. Evening. Revise any moments where you felt lack or worry. Replay the day in your mind as if everything went in your favor. Before sleep, imagine a simple end scene that implies your financial success is already real. Feel it and drift off in that state. Doing this for even a week creates noticeable shifts in how you feel, and soon, the outer world begins to reflect it. Why mental diets outperform vibration chasing. While vibrational work can sometimes feel like an emotional roller coaster, chasing good feelings and fearing bad ones, a mental diet is steady. You don't have to force yourself to be happy all the time. You just remain loyal to the desired state in thought, knowing the feeling will stabilize naturally. Neville summed it up perfectly. The subconscious is not concerned with whether your thoughts are good or bad, true or false. It accepts them as facts because you persist in them. So your job isn't to always be high vibe. Your job is to be consistent in the assumption of wealth, even when the 3D reality looks different. The bottom line, mental diets and vibrational work both aim to align you with your desire. But Neville's mental diet approach is more stable and effective because it focuses on inner consistency rather than chasing emotional highs. By watching your inner conversations, replacing contradictory thoughts, and revising past memories of failure or scarcity, you create a new dominant state of wealth. When the subconscious accepts that state, the outer world must conform, without endless vibration maintenance. Visualization and feeling, two perspectives. Visualization is one of the most talked about practices in the manifestation world, but how it's understood and applied differs dramatically between the law of attraction, LOA, and Neville Goddard's law of assumption. In LOA, visualization is often used to attract something external by focusing on it repeatedly until the universe matches your vibration. In the law of assumption, visualization is not about attracting, it's about becoming. You use imagination not as a hopeful wish, but as the act of occupying the state of fulfillment now. In this section, we'll explore how these two approaches differ, why emotional embodiment is more powerful than visual wishful thinking, how Neville's scene implying fulfillment technique works, and why short, simple imaginal acts often outperform long, complicated meditations. How LOA uses visualization to attract. The typical LOA approach sees visualization as a tool to align with a desired frequency. You might spend 15 to 30 minutes visualizing your dream car, house, or business. Imagine yourself driving the car or holding the keys to the new home. Feel excitement and joy to raise your vibration to match what you want. The underlying belief is that like attracts like. By focusing on your desire, you're energetically calling it to you. While this can work for some, it often leaves people feeling like they're still separate from the desire. The visualization becomes a kind of future movie, a fantasy you hope will one day become real. This creates a subtle but important problem. You're still in the state of wanting. You're picturing something out there, not truly accepting it as already yours. How assumption uses visualization to become. Neville's approach is radically different. Visualization is not about sending out signals to attract something external. It's about occupying the end result in your imagination until it feels real and natural. He said, "You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe it is the only reason you do not see it." So in the law of assumption, visualization is not about pulling your desire toward you. It's about mentally stepping into the reality where it's already done. You don't visualize to get, you visualize to be. You're not looking at your desire as if it's in the future. You're accepting it as your present reality in imagination. When you persist in the state of being, the outer world, what Neville called the 3D reality, must rearrange itself to reflect the inner state. Emotional embodiment versus visual wishful thinking. One of Neville's key teachings is that feeling is the secret. You can visualize for hours, but if you're only seeing the images like a movie without feeling the reality of them, it's just wishful thinking. The subconscious mind responds to feeling, not just pictures. Think of the difference. Wishful thinking. You sit down and picture yourself in a luxury home. You see yourself walking through it, but deep down you still feel, this would be nice someday, but it's not my life right now. The visualization stays a future hope. Emotional embodiment. You close your eyes and imagine sitting on the couch in your luxury home. You feel the fabric of the furniture, the warmth of the lighting, the satisfaction of knowing this is my home now. You feel the relief, gratitude, and naturalness of already having it. The second approach works because you're being the version of yourself who already lives that reality. Neville emphasized that the feeling should be natural and simple. It's not about ecstatic excitement. It's about the calm certainty that it's already done. Neville's scene implying fulfillment technique. Neville didn't teach long, elaborate visualizations. He recommended creating a short, simple scene that implies the desire is already fulfilled. Here's how it works. Choose a simple, final scene. Pick a moment that would naturally happen if your desire were real. For example, if you want financial freedom, imagine a friend saying, "I'm so happy you're finally debt-free." If you want a promotion, imagine shaking hands with your boss as they congratulate you. Keep it short. The scene should be only a few seconds long, just enough to imply the desire is fulfilled. Use first-person perspective. Don't see yourself from the outside like a movie. See through your own eyes. If you're imagining holding a check, see your own hands holding it. Add sensory details. Feel the texture, hear the sounds, notice the smells. The more vivid, the more the subconscious accepts it as real. Most important, feel the reality. Let the emotional after effect wash over you. Feel the relief, gratitude, or joy that naturally follows fulfillment. Repeat until it feels natural. Do this nightly before sleep, what Neville called the state akin to sleep, when the subconscious is most receptive. This is powerful because you're not imagining getting the desire. You're imagining the result of already having it. Example, wealth visualization LOA versus assumption. Let's say you want to manifest $50,000. LOA approach. You visualize stacks of cash, see yourself winning a lottery or getting a check, and try to feel excited about it. The focus is on attracting the money from outside yourself. Assumption approach. You imagine a scene after the money is already yours. Maybe you're calling your family saying, "It's done. We finally have the money we needed." You feel the relief and satisfaction as if it's already part of your life now. The second approach works faster because it aligns your identity with the fulfilled state rather than the lack of it. Why short? Simple imaginal acts are more effective. Many people think the longer they visualize, the more powerful it is. But Neville taught that short, simple imaginal acts repeated consistently are more effective than long, forced meditations. Why? Clarity impresses the subconscious more than complexity. A short scene leaves a strong, simple impression. A long, complicated visualization can confuse the subconscious with too many details. The subconscious responds to intensity of feeling, not duration. A few seconds of deeply felt reality is more powerful than 30 minutes of scattered daydreaming. Consistency beats effort. Doing a simple scene nightly until it feels natural creates a new state of being. Long sessions often lead to burnout or frustration. Neville compared it to planting a seed. You don't keep digging it up to check on it. You plant it once, trust it, and allow it to grow. A simple wealth scene. Let's create a short imaginal act for wealth. Scene, you're sitting at a dining table with your best friend. They smile and say, "I'm so proud of how financially free you are now." You really did it. Your reply, you smile and respond, "It feels amazing to finally have more than enough." Feelings, relief, gratitude, confidence, calm certainty. Sensory detail. Hear their voice. See the room lighting. Feel the chair beneath you. That's it. It's only a few seconds. You don't need to visualize where the money came from or the step-by-step process. The subconscious will work out the bridge of incidents. Why assumption visualization eliminates resistance. When you visualize as LOA teaches, you often remind yourself that you don't have it yet because you're still wanting it. But when you visualize as Neville taught, you bypass the waiting energy. You're no longer hoping for it. You're being it. This dissolves resistance because you're no longer creating a gap between me now and me with the desire. This is why Neville emphasized, you must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When the feeling of fulfillment becomes natural, the outer world must reflect it. Common mistakes in visualization. Seeing it like a movie instead of living it. If you're watching yourself from the outside, it feels like something separate. Instead, always imagine from first person. Adding too many details. People often overcomplicate their scenes, imagining long conversations, multiple locations, etc. Keep it simple. Trying too hard to force emotion. You don't need ecstatic excitement. A calm, quiet sense of it's done is enough. Visualizing outcomes instead of implying fulfillment. Don't visualize getting the money. Visualize what would naturally happen after you already have it. How to make visualization a habit. Do it before sleep. In the drowsy state between wakefulness and sleep, your mind is most receptive. Keep the same scene for a few days. Don't jump from one scene to another. Repeat the same scene until it feels natural. Don't worry about vividness at first. Even if it feels faint or unclear, focus on the feeling more than perfect clarity. Over time, it becomes easier and more automatic. The bottom line, visualization in the law of attraction is about attracting something external by focusing on it repeatedly. Visualization in the law of assumption is about becoming the fulfilled version of yourself now. The key difference is that Neville's method is identity-based. You're not a person trying to manifest wealth. You're already wealthy in imagination, and reality must catch up. Short, simple imaginal acts with deep emotional embodiment are far more powerful than long, forced visualizations because they directly impress the subconscious with a clear message. It is done. Handling delay, doubt, and fear. One of the biggest challenges people face with manifestation, whether using the law of attraction, LOA, or the law of assumption, is dealing with time. You visualize, affirm, and focus on your desire, but the outer world doesn't change right away. Days, weeks, or even months pass, and nothing seems different. Doubt creeps in. Fear whispers, what if this doesn't work for me? Understanding how delay, doubt, and fear operate is essential because these states often sabotage manifestation more than any external obstacle. In this section, we'll explore why manifestation sometimes seems stuck with LOA, how the law of assumption bypasses resistance by ignoring time, why trusting the unseen is key, and how Neville's concept of the bridge of incidents unfolds naturally without effort. Why manifestation seems stuck in LOA. The traditional LOA model often unintentionally creates a sense of waiting. Here's why. Focus on attracting. LOA frames desires as something separate from you that must be drawn into your life. When you're constantly trying to attract something, you reinforce the idea that you don't have it yet. Overemphasis on vibration. Many LOA teachings say you must maintain a high vibration for your desire to manifest. This leads people to constantly monitor their emotions, worrying if they're doing it right. When a negative thought or bad day happens, fear sets in. Did I mess it up? Attachment to time. People using LOA often look for signs and deadlines. It's been 2 weeks, where's my manifestation? This attachment creates anxiety, which reinforces the state of lack. Misunderstanding of resistance. When results don't show up immediately, people assume there's resistance they must clear. They start searching for hidden blocks, which keeps them stuck in the belief that something is wrong. This waiting energy slows things down because the subconscious continues to reflect the dominant state of wanting. How assumption bypasses resistance by ignoring time. Neville Goddard's law of assumption flips this dynamic completely. Instead of trying to attract, you simply assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You accept it as already true in your imagination. Once you fully occupy the state of already having it, the question of when becomes irrelevant. Neville taught, persist in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, for your assumption, though false at the moment, if persisted and will harden into fact. Here's why this bypasses resistance. There's no waiting. You're not hoping for it to come. You're being it now in consciousness. There's no effort to attract. You're not sending out vibrations or signals to the universe. You're simply aligning your inner state with the end result. Time becomes meaningless. Since you're living in the end, you don't measure time by the outer appearance. You already feel it is done, so there's no impatience. The subconscious accepts the state immediately. Once the new state is accepted, the outer world must conform, but it will do so in its own perfect way. Trusting the unseen. One of Neville's most repeated messages was to trust the unseen reality of imagination more than the visible 3D world. He said, "Dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part to fulfill it." Here's how to cultivate trust. Understand the nature of the 3D world. The outer world is simply a reflection of your past states. What you're seeing today is the echo of old beliefs and assumptions. If you've shifted your inner state, the 3D world will take time to catch up. Stop looking for evidence. Constantly checking for proof only reinforces that you don't believe it's already done. Trust is quiet and doesn't need reassurance. Anchor yourself in the feeling. Instead of obsessing over how it will happen, return to the inner feeling of fulfillment. That feeling is the true reality. The physical will follow. Remind yourself of past proof. Think about times when your inner state shifted and the outer world followed. This strengthens faith in the unseen. Why delay is just an illusion. Neville explained that what we call delay is simply the time it takes for the new state to crystallize in the outer world. But in truth, the desire is already done the moment it's assumed. He said, "The interval of time between the assumption and its fulfillment is the bridge of incidents by which the reality of that assumption is fulfilled." So even if nothing appears to change right away, the unseen wheels are already in motion. Think of planting a seed. The moment you plant it, the growth process begins, even if you don't see it yet. You wouldn't dig it up the next day to check if it's sprouting. You trust the unseen process. Manifestation works the same way, persisting in the new state. When doubt and fear arise, and they will, your job is simply to persist in the new state, no matter what the 3D world shows you. Here's how to persist effectively. Don't react to the old reality. If the bank account still looks empty, don't panic. Say to yourself, "This is just the shadow of my old state. My inner reality is already abundant." Return to your imaginal scene. If doubt feels strong, take a few minutes to revisit your simple scene of fulfillment. Remind your subconscious of the end. Affirm inner certainty. Use calm affirmations like, "It is already done. What I assume to be true must show up." Refuse to entertain contradictory thoughts. Even if fear arises, don't argue with it. Simply shift your inner dialogue back to the fulfilled state. Over time, persistence becomes effortless because the new state starts to feel natural. The bridge of incidents, how it unfolds without effort. Neville taught that once you assume the end, the bridge of incidents will unfold to lead you naturally to the fulfillment of your desire. What is the bridge of incidents? It's the sequence of events, often unexpected and beyond your logical planning, that moves you from where you are to the fulfilled state. It might look like coincidences, synchronicities, or random opportunities. The key is, you don't have to plan or force the bridge. Your only job is to maintain the inner assumption. The bridge will unfold automatically. For example, you assume financial freedom. A week later, you randomly meet someone who offers a lucrative business opportunity. You assume you're promoted. Soon after, your boss unexpectedly leaves, and you're offered their position. You assume you're debt-free. A relative gifts you money out of the blue. From the outside, it looks like luck. But from the law of assumption perspective, it's simply the subconscious reorganizing the outer world to match your inner state. Example, handling delay in wealth manifestation. Let's say you're manifesting $10,000. Day 1, you assume it's done. You imagine a friend congratulating you. You feel the relief. Day 5, your bank account still looks the same. Doubt whispers, "This isn't working." What you do, instead of reacting, you remind yourself, "This is just the old reality. My assumption is the truth, and it's already unfolding." Day 12, you unexpectedly receive a refund, a new client, or a job opportunity that starts moving you toward the $10,000. The key is not the timing, but your persistence. If you had abandoned the assumption on day 5, the bridge of incidents might never have unfolded. Fear of the how. One major source of doubt is obsessing over how it will happen. The mind wants to control the details. Neville said you must let go of the how. You do not have to devise the means. Assume the end. The end will determine the means. When you focus on the end, the subconscious arranges the bridge of incidents. Trying to figure out the how only creates resistance because you're thinking from the limited old state. When fear feels overwhelming. If fear becomes strong, here are quick ways to calm it. Revisit past successes. Remember times you assumed something and it came true. Short breathing pause. Take a few deep breaths and silently repeat, "It is already done." Immerse in the end scene. For 1 to 2 minutes, imagine your fulfilled state again. Feel relief. Fear loses power the more you anchor yourself in the feeling of fulfillment. Why persistence always wins. Neville's students often asked, "But what if nothing is happening?" His answer was always the same: persist. Even if the outer world seems stubborn, persistence reshapes your dominant state. And the subconscious must express whatever state you persist in. He said, if you persist in an assumption, it will harden into fact. So delay is never failure. It's just the unfolding of the bridge of incidents. Doubt is just the old self fighting for survival. Fear is just a reminder to return to the end. The bottom line, in LOA, delay often feels frustrating because you're waiting for something external to arrive. In the law of assumption, there is no true delay. You already have it in imagination, and the physical world simply takes time to reflect it. Trusting the unseen reality of imagination dissolves fear. The bridge of incidents will unfold naturally without effort, as long as you persist in the new state. When you stop worrying about time and how, and simply rest in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the manifestation becomes inevitable. In Neville's words, the world is a shadow. Remain faithful to the unseen reality, and the shadow will rearrange itself without effort, creating a wealth identity shift. One of Neville Goddard's most powerful teachings is that you cannot permanently change your life without changing your self-concept. If you still see yourself as someone who struggles financially, no amount of affirmations or visualization will stick for long. True and lasting wealth comes from shifting your identity, not just attracting money temporarily, but becoming the person for whom wealth is natural. In this section, we'll explore practical steps to reprogram your self-concept for financial success, daily practices that integrate this new identity, how to think from wealth instead of thinking of it, and why building a stable wealth identity creates long-term success instead of fleeting wins. Why identity shapes wealth. Your identity, your deep-seated beliefs about who you are, is the filter through which you experience reality. If your identity is, I'm bad with money, or I never have enough, you'll unconsciously make choices that reinforce scarcity. If your identity is, I'm a wealthy person who always has more than enough, your subconscious will create circumstances that match that truth. This is why people who win the lottery often lose it all within a few years. They received a temporary influx of money, but their identity didn't change. They were still operating from the old self-concept of lack or unworthiness. Neville said, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. So instead of chasing wealth as an external thing, you shift the internal sense of self to I am wealthy. Then wealth becomes an effortless reflection of who you are. Thinking from wealth versus thinking of wealth. Neville made a critical distinction. Thinking of wealth. You think about wealth as something separate. You visualize it, desire it, and hope to get in the future. This reinforces that you're not there yet. Thinking from wealth. You think as if you're already wealthy. Your inner conversations, feelings, and assumptions all come from the perspective of someone who has it now. Example, thinking of, I hope I'll become rich someday. I'm visualizing money. Thinking from, it feels amazing to have financial freedom. I always have more than enough. When you think from the fulfilled state, the subconscious accepts it as true and reflects it outward. Practical steps to reprogram your self-concept for wealth. Let's go step by step. 1. Identify the old wealth identity. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about money and myself? Write down the thoughts that come up. Common examples. Money is hard to come by. I'm not good with finances. I have to struggle to succeed. I'm just not the type who gets rich. These beliefs are your current identity around money. Becoming aware of them is the first step to changing them. 2. Decide the new wealth identity. Now define who you want to be. Example, I'm someone for whom money flows easily. I always have more than enough. I naturally make wise financial decisions. I'm financially free and secure. Notice how these are not just about having money. They're about being a wealthy person at the identity level. 3. Create a simple imaginal scene of wealth. Neville taught that a single scene implying fulfillment is enough to shift your identity. For wealth, choose a simple, natural moment. A friend congratulating you on your financial success. Looking at your bank account and feeling calm, grateful, secure. Enjoying a meal in a beautiful place, knowing you can afford it easily. Keep the scene short, just a few seconds, and feel it as if it's real right now. Repeat it nightly before sleep. 4. Use inner conversations to reinforce it. Throughout the day, watch your inner self-talk. If you catch yourself thinking, I can't afford this, immediately shift it. Old thought, I don't have enough. New thought, I always have more than enough. Money comes to me easily. Talk to yourself as the wealthy version of you. Example, inner conversation. I love how financially secure I feel now. It's amazing how opportunities keep showing up for me. This mental diet builds consistency until the wealthy identity feels natural. 5. Affirm your new self-concept daily. Affirmations are powerful when they're tied to identity. Instead of vague statements like, I want money, use identity-based affirmations. I'm a wealthy person now. I embody financial freedom. I'm the type of person who always prospers. Say them calmly, not desperately. The goal is to normalize the feeling of wealth. 6. Act as if in small ways. You don't have to fake a lifestyle you can't afford, but you can embody small behaviors of wealth. Stop saying, I'm broke or I can't afford it. Organize your finances like a wealthy person would. Tidy, intentional, respectful of money. Dress, speak, and carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone secure in wealth. These small shifts reinforce the new identity. Daily wealth identity practice. Here's a simple daily routine that combines all elements. Morning. Wake up and affirm, I am a wealthy person. Money flows easily to me. Daytime. If old thoughts arise, replace them instantly with your new identity statement. Engage in inner conversations of success and abundance. Evening. Revise any moments of doubt. If you're worried about bills, mentally replay the day as if you felt calm and secure instead. Before sleep, sats. Enter a drowsy state and visualize your simple wealth scene. Feel the relief and gratitude of already having it. Drift off with that feeling. This daily repetition saturates the subconscious with a new identity until it becomes automatic. Long-term stability versus temporary wins. Many people can manifest a quick financial win, a sudden check, a surprise refund, but then things go back to the old pattern. Why? Because the identity didn't change. The subconscious still saw them as someone who struggles with money, so it balanced the temporary gain by creating new expenses or setbacks. When you build a true wealth identity, however, the changes last because your subconscious sees you as naturally wealthy. Temporary win mindset. I'm hoping to manifest money this week. Wealth identity mindset. I am wealth. Money is just a reflection of who I am. Long-term stability happens when wealth becomes normal, not a lucky exception. How to know the shift is working. You'll notice subtle changes before big manifestations appear. You stop feeling anxious about money. You feel calmer and more confident making financial decisions. Opportunities for money feel natural instead of surprising. You no longer react to old triggers like bills or unexpected expenses. These inner shifts are proof the subconscious has accepted the new identity, and the outer world will soon reflect it. Example of an identity shift in action. Let's say Sarah has always identified as someone who just gets by. Old state. She worries about bills, feels nervous looking at her bank account, and constantly thinks, I can't afford that. New identity. She begins affirming, I'm a financially secure person. Money always finds me. Daily practice. She visualizes a friend saying, you're so financially free now, and feels the relief nightly before sleep. After a few weeks, Sarah notices she no longer panics about small expenses. She gets an unexpected raise at work. She starts having ideas for a side business she never considered before. The change wasn't from forcing money to appear. It was from becoming someone for whom wealth is natural. Why this works without effort. When you live from the wealth identity, you don't need to constantly hustle or look for signs. Your subconscious automatically guides your behavior, decisions, and opportunities toward wealth because it now sees that as normal. Neville said, you will never attract what you want. You will always attract what you believe yourself to be. So the goal isn't to manifest random amounts of money. It's to become the person for whom wealth is inevitable. The bottom line, money follows identity. If you still identify with lack, any temporary gain will fade. Thinking from wealth is more powerful than thinking of wealth because it closes the gap between you and the desire. Daily practices like affirmations, imaginal scenes, and inner conversations reprogram the subconscious to accept wealth as natural. Long-term wealth comes from a stable self-concept shift, not one-off manifestations. When you persist in the wealth identity, money stops feeling like something you chase. It becomes a natural byproduct of who you are, becoming the operant power. After exploring the differences between the law of attraction and the law of assumption, the techniques, the mindset shifts, and the wealth identity transformation, it all leads to one ultimate realization. You are the operant power. This final words ties together everything we've discussed. Why assumption is a deeper, more direct path. Neville Goddard's ultimate teaching about the power within you, how to fully embrace being the cause of your reality, and a call to step confidently into your wealth destiny through assumption. Why assumption is the deeper, more direct path. The law of attraction teaches that you emit vibrations and the universe responds. While this idea resonates with many, it often keeps people in a passive waiting mode, hoping the universe will deliver. The law of assumption, however, removes all sense of waiting or pleading with an external force. It says, you don't need to attract anything. You don't need to rely on luck, signs, or cosmic timing. You simply assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and the outer world must conform. Why is this deeper? It removes the middleman. You're not sending a request to the universe. You are the creative power. It eliminates the sense of separation. You're not trying to get something out there. You're living it now in imagination. It bypasses resistance. There's no waiting energy, no attachment to time. Once you feel it real, it's done. It operates at the level of identity. Rather than trying to change circumstances, you change who you are being, which naturally shifts everything else. In Neville's words, man moves in a world that is nothing more or less than his consciousness objectified. The law of assumption is simply about changing your consciousness, your state of being, and letting the world rearrange accordingly. Neville's ultimate teaching, you are the operant power. Neville's core message was radically empowering. You are the operant power. You do not need to wait for a sign, or for permission, or for something outside yourself. You are the one who operates the power of imagination. The law works when you work it. This means there is no external gatekeeper deciding if you're worthy of wealth. There's no mysterious force withholding your desire. There's no need to beg, hope, or wait. The creative power of God is within you, your awareness of being. When you change your concept of yourself, you automatically change the conditions of your life. This is why Neville emphasized, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the cause. The world is simply the mirror. How to fully embrace being the cause of your reality. Becoming the operant power means taking full responsibility, not in a heavy, guilt-driven way, but in a liberating way. Here's how to embrace it. 1. Stop blaming external factors. No more thinking, the economy is bad, that's why I'm broke. I can't succeed because of my background. I don't have the right opportunities. Instead, recognize, my outer world is reflecting my inner state. If I shift my state, the reflection must change. 2. Accept that imagination creates reality. This is the leap of faith Neville invites you to take. What you persistently imagine and feel real must show up in your life. So the question becomes, what am I imagining most of the time? Are you imagining more lack than abundance? Are you rehearsing fear more than fulfillment? Once you notice this, you can deliberately choose new imaginal acts that align with wealth and success. 3. Detach from the old self. The old self, the version of you who struggled with money, is just a mental construct. It has no real power except the power you keep giving it by believing in it. When you assume a new identity, wealthy, secure, abundant, the old self naturally dissolves. 4. Live from the end. From this moment on, live as if your desire is already fulfilled. Think like the wealthy version of you. Speak like the wealthy version of you. Feel the calm, secure energy of someone who already has more than enough. You don't wait for the world to change to feel this way. You feel it now, and the world must follow. 5. Persist no matter what the 3D world shows. The outer world may initially show the same conditions. That's just a lagging reflection of your old state. Don't react to it. Instead, remember, this is just a shadow. My inner reality is the cause, and it's already done. When you refuse to waver, the old must fade and the new must appear. Wealth as a natural byproduct of state. When you fully embrace the law of assumption, wealth stops being something you chase. It becomes a natural byproduct of the state you live in. If you live in the state of scarcity, lack will show up. If you live in the state of abundance, wealth must appear. It's not about hustling harder or hoping for luck. It's about being the person who naturally embodies wealth. Neville said, to be rich, you must be rich in consciousness first. What you are in consciousness is all that you will ever experience in the outer world. So you don't need to force the outer world to change. You only need to change the inner assumption, and the outer will mirror it without effort. An empowering call. Step into your wealth destiny. Right now, you have a choice. You can continue thinking of wealth as something distant, hoping the law of attraction will bring it, feeling like life happens to you. Or you could decide to assume the state of already being wealthy, live from that fulfilled identity starting today. Trust that the unseen will shape the scene. This doesn't require more struggle, more waiting, or more proving yourself worthy. It requires one thing, accepting that you're already the operant power. Imagine your wealth destiny now. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. Your finances are abundant. Your bank account feels secure. You make decisions without fear. A friend smiles and says, I'm so proud of how financially free you are now. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the quiet confidence. That version of you already exists in imagination. The moment you accept it, the bridge of incidents will begin to unfold. Final words from Neville. Neville's entire philosophy can be summed up in this one statement. Man is all imagination, and God is man, and exists in us and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God Himself. You don't need permission to create wealth. You don't need external validation. You already hold the creative power of God within you, your awareness of being. When you assume wealth, you're not asking for it. You're simply remembering who you really are, the source, not the seeker. Your next step, starting today, choose to. Stop waiting for wealth to arrive. Begin living as if it's already yours. Persist in that feeling until it becomes natural. When you truly feel it real, the outer world cannot help but rearrange itself to match. Your wealth destiny is not out there. It's within you, waiting to be assumed. So, step into it now. Dare to believe that you're already the person you wish to be. The moment you assume it, it is done.